Welcome to another interview about the new Encyclopedia of Seventh-day Adventists online. The Encyclopedia, or ESDA, was released on July 1st and is the Adventist Church's first online reference work. It features thousands of articles from around the world on a variety of topics, including articles on Adventist missionaries, evangelists, institutions, organizations, and beliefs. If you haven't checked the ESDA website yet, please do so. It's at encyclopedia.adventist.org. That's encyclopedia.adventist.org, and you can browse more than 2,200 articles and look at more than 4,000 photographs. To make people more aware of the encyclopedia, we have been holding a series of video podcasts. I am your host, Dr. David Trim, and with me today is Dr. Dragoslava Santrac. I am the editor of the Encyclopedia of Seventh-day Adventists, and Dr. Santrac is the managing editor. And our guest today is Dr. Daniel Jiao, the Executive Secretary of the Chinese Union Mission. Daniel, thank you very much for agreeing to be with us today.
Yeah, thank you for giving me this opportunity. It's my pleasure to be here.
Now, Daniel, just before we talk about the encyclopedia, not all of our viewers and listeners will understand the unusual situation of the Chinese Union Mission. Many church members will know that the Seventh-day Adventist Church works through its 13 world divisions, but in the last 10 years it's also worked through 2 attached unions. That is, they're unions, but they work directly with the General Conference, and that's the situation of the Chinese Union Mission. Do you want to just say a little bit about that for our viewers?
Yes, Chinese Union Mission, as we are right now, was organized in 1999, and we have been tasked with the responsibility to oversee the work in China. As you know, and that the work in China really is the government 3-self principle, which means that they have their own governance. And although that we have right now about close to 500,000 Adventists in China, but they have their own organization. We, as a Chinese Union Mission, although we are in Hong Kong, but we are not in any way to oversee or administer the church work in China. But we do provide support since 1999, the forming of Chinese Union Mission. Actually, even before that, we are supporting the Chinese church in several different areas. For example, we provide the training, provide consultation on doctrinal issues. That's something that the government is okay for us to be involved with, because we are a worldwide church and we have 28 fundamental beliefs. So that if there's any area that the church in China have any question about our doctrinal issues, we can interact, we can have training, we can talk to them about. Another area is that we can provide some support for churches when they got into conflict. Sometimes we go to talk to this church, go to talk to that church. And also in terms of help local church to grow, and some of the Adventist church, how the world church is growing, how we can bring that growth to members in China, how we can encourage them to do church growth so that the member can grow in China. In these areas, we can certainly support, but we don't have any administrative relationship with the churches in China.
Right.
Yes.
So the church in China, obviously, from what you describe, has a rather unusual situation, but then it arrives from a very specific situation, a political situation in the People's Republic of China. But of course, it also arises from a very specific history. And as you mentioned, the Chinese Union Mission, as we know it today, is not very old, only 21 years this year. and yet actually, of course, the work in China has a much longer history.
Yes.
And indeed,
Yes.
for 20 years, there was a China division. And of course, China, as we know, has 1 billion people, so you just have a small job to do there, Daniel, taking
Yes.
care
Yes.
of the church with
Mm-hmm.
that. But there is that Adventism, and I would guess many viewers don't know and would think, the Adventist Church in China is chiefly results from the interest in Christianity. That I think it's now reasonably well known that there's an interest in Christianity in some parts of China, but actually the history of the church goes back a very long way, and that shapes, I think, the Chinese Union mission still today.
Certainly.
So what is the importance for the Chinese Union of the Encyclopedia of Seventh-day Adventists, a project that is essentially telling the history? What is the importance of the project for you?
For me, as we look at this project, I think really the importance is that we can look at the history and certainly learn from what happened in the past, can also give us wisdom that we can do our work in the future. As you look at China Division as the early missionaries, they were mainly sent from North America, early missionaries that they go into China, and for example, the very first missionary, Abraham LaRue, which actually was not officially sent by the church, but he came anyway in his old age. But that was really because the love of our brothers and sisters, for them to bring this gospel message to this part of the world. And we can see, as I mentioned, that now 500,000 Adventist members in China, which comes from very humble beginning. But that's going to look at the history, to review the history, and to look at what happened in the past is really meaningful for us to. Of course, one side is to think about what happened in the past, but as I said, many things we can learn from early missionaries, how the church has grown, and of course there are lessons that we can also learn from.
Daniel, our believers in China were cut off for certainly 40 years, in some ways maybe 50 years. Do they know the history? Is the history important to them?
Yeah, certainly. That's I think, David, you hit on another point, to remind them of the history of what happened in the past. I would say that we have, I think maybe 10 or 15 years ago, Chinese Union Mission, we put together Chinese history of the Adventist history, which you may have seen a volume,
Yes.
the Chinese volume of that.
Yes.
But really, that's probably the only historical record, or which is not a really academic, but we have some people wrote many remember what happened in the past. That's put into the volume. But as the Seventh-day Adventist Encyclopedia, this project can really bring out those stories, what happened in the past. And for members that, of course, right now it's in English. Most of the members in China, they will need some kind of translation. But the content is there. I think it's really valuable, even for our members in China. I can even give some examples, some stories that in my research on my team, as we do, are really fascinating, that can really remind and encourage our brothers and sisters as they read and find out, and as they ponder on the story happening in the past.
Dr. Jiao, you mentioned some interesting stories that you would like to share. And I think the stories, especially the stories about missionaries, are the highlight of the encyclopedia and perhaps of these interviews. So would you share some stories that stood out for you or maybe surprised you?
Yes, one person that which was a missionary in China, Dr. Trinh, which you have also visited his grave. His name is Clarence Chrysler, which you will remember that you have also been to his grave.
Yes.
Just as we were looking back, can I share a few pictures? Slide.
Wonderful. Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. Let me just share. Okay. Okay. This one is which I look at from the China Division report. As you can see here, it's 1936. It is actually a report that after he has passed away, a funeral, and you can see that here says in his last itinerary in Xianfu, Shanxi, and he is as I remember that he was in a few years also the secretary for Ellen White a few years, and he came into China, and then you can see that this is also on the second page of this China Division report that he is they are laying the tomb for him. What's interesting is that as I look at this, I see that this a third picture is that you can see on this screen says Pastor Chrysler and Governor of Qinghai Province, Xining. This really, at least for me, that make a lot of meaning because I was born in Qinghai Province, and at that time he was already talking to the governor of Qinghai, and as he was there and doing missionary work. And this book, I think some of you may have read Chrysler.
Yes.
He has written this book, China's Borderland and Beyond. Two pictures from this book are very interesting. Here, I just took a picture from the book. Here says, in Guiyang Seventh-day Adventist Church, as it appeared at 1934 annual meeting, high up on wires encircling the interior may be seen many provincial maps upon which are indicated by large dots of red the number of xian occupied in every province. Xian is county, meaning that at that time, they were already putting maps up in the church that looking at and enter places that they are wanting to pray for these places. They have a strategic plan that how to enter these places.
They're actually planning that way, as you say. They have a strategic plan to reach China.
Yes. So that's very interesting. Right now, even we are looking at they're in different cities in China, province in cities over 500,000 million people that will encourage local church in China to actively looking at the cities and to send their church members to share with the gospel to those cities in China. And that time, Chrysler, he was doing that. You can see that in the annual meeting, they were putting up these banners. They were doing that. Another picture is also in the same book, maps, songs, and exhibits emphasizing the importance of xian occupancy as spread on the platform of 1935 biannual session of the North China Union, Peiping. Peiping is actually Beijing right now. It's in the Beijing area. You can see that in that high up on the platform, there is a map, which is including Beijing and the surrounding in the central part, surrounding provinces, 1935. I don't think many people in China today, especially young people, know any of this. But as we look at the story in the past, it is just mind-boggling that today we're talking about, as we go forward, we want to evangelize to many different places, and they were doing the same thing in 1935. Looking at the map, looking at strategies, and how to share gospel, and bring that to this place, which Dr. Trim, you have been to. That's in just outside the Lanzhou, the city of Lanzhou. That's where the tomb, the missionary Chrysler is. It's quite a walk, going up the slope.
Yes, it is.
Yes, and then this is right here in outside the Lanzhou. If you get a chance, you can visit there. Clarence Krieger Chrysler, that's his tomb. Our church in Lanzhou, they know about him, and they come here. You can see that the tomb is well kept there in Lanzhou. So that's really a good way to remember the missionaries. So that's a very good example that when we write up the story, I don't know who's tasked to write up the Chrysler's story, but whoever is writing up the story for our encyclopedia, what he has done in the past, connecting with his tomb, connecting with the strategy. I think that's just such a powerful testimony that God's work, even 1935, in the 1930s, that how they are doing God's work, still impacting our today. So that's one good example I could think of. It's just as I review that, I think just so powerful, so meaningful.
Yes.
Also encouraged me a lot. Yes.
Yes. Indeed. This is really a powerful testimony, and knowing that some missionaries actually died and were buried in the country of their mission is a testimony of their devotion and love for the people they served. So this is really an inspiring story. And as you said, there are many others like this in the encyclopedia at encyclopedia.adventist.org. Also, medical work is very important in China and Hong Kong. And there is an interesting article about the Hong Kong Adventist Hospital in the encyclopedia and other medical institutions. Would you tell us a few words about Adventist medical work in your part of the world?
Yeah, right now, the medical work started with sorry, I suddenly forgot his name. Maybe we can pause here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the medical work in Hong Kong started with Dr. Harry Miller, and he built a hospital here in Hong Kong. Right now, we have two hospitals in Hong Kong. One in the New Territory side, the other is in the Hong Kong Island. And they are one of the first private hospital built here in Hong Kong. And really, it has served the community here in Hong Kong for many years. And especially for the Hong Kong side, I mean, for the New Territory side, in 2015, they have finished the construction of a new tower, which is 23 or 26 story high, and with brand new facilities, and with a bed capacity probably up to 500 to 600 beds. It's really amazing that start from Dr. Miller. He was also in Shanghai with the medical work there. Start from Shanghai, had this Shanghai sanitarium was also started by Dr. Miller, and he was the personal doctor for Chiang Kai-shek, and you know he was very famous in his time when he was doing medical work. Again, that a person who was doing that in that time continue on the legacy today. We can see because he has started, and then we have two outstanding hospitals here in Hong Kong.
Yes,
of course, we have many other hospitals here started in China, which now the building has been given to the Chinese government. But we are many hospitals, clinic across different places in China, which the medical work has started at that time.
Yes. So we can say that medical work is another legacy of the Seventh-day Adventism in China and Hong Kong. Dr. Jiao, thank you so much for sharing these stories. And there are many more in the encyclopedia, and I hope that you sparkled an interest in our viewers to go and check other articles about Adventism in China and Hong Kong. So what would you like to share with our viewers and the readers of the encyclopedia for the very end of this interview? Is there any encouragement from you?
Yeah, I think as we are involved in writing articles for institutions, for people, for missionaries here in this part of the world, I'm really encouraged to see the dedicated spirit of those early missionaries. Without their dedication, really, we don't have the church today. Early missionaries, as they go into China, they adapt into the local situation. I have seen pictures that sometimes they dress up like local Chinese. They live like local Chinese. They learn the local language. At that time, they can only go by horse carriage on horseback, and sometimes they travel days in the mountains to reach in certain places. But those stories is really inspiring, and especially for young people today. I think that's these encyclopedia articles, when we finish writing them, that's true inspiration for them to look at what happened in the past and encourage them to continue forward. Doesn't matter what kind of difficulty they face, because God has led in the past, He will also continue to lead us in the future.
And it's also, of course, true that the message was then taken on by so many indigenous Chinese workers. And one of the great pleasures I have is that the encyclopedia is telling the stories of their lives as well. Biographies are still being written of many of them.
Yes.
But already there are some of those on the encyclopedia website, and there will be more. And if anyone watching is interested in Chinese history, we know there's a great, of course, large Chinese diaspora around the world. If anyone is interested in writing, we still need authors. But we are being...
Yes, certainly. I will agree with that. Looking for authors to write articles, that certainly we hope more people can help us to write articles.
But now, yes, we need help to finish the encyclopedia project. But we appreciate so much, Daniel, what you and your president, Elder Bob Falkenberg, and your team at the Chinese Union Mission have done to support this project. The Encyclopedia of Seventh-day Adventists couldn't have launched without support from church administrators all around the world. But I am happy to say Chinese Union Mission was one of the most supportive, putting somebody on staff, in fact, to write articles. So, Daniel, thank you so much for the tremendous support you've given to the ESDA project, and are continuing to give, as you say, as we move towards completing the Chinese block of articles for the Encyclopedia of Seventh-day Adventists. And thank you very much for being our guest today. We really appreciated you shared very fully and clearly, and also showed some wonderful pictures. So thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
We pray the encyclopedia brings tremendous blessings for the church in People's Republic of China, in Hong Kong, Macau, and indeed beyond.
Amen.
That was Dr. Daniel Jiao, the Executive Secretary of the Chinese Union Mission. Please go to encyclopedia.adventist.org to read articles from China, from Northern Asia Pacific, and more than 2,200 other articles. The address again is encyclopedia.adventist.org. See you soon with another ESDA editor or another administrator who's worked closely with ESDA, and also with new stories from the Encyclopedia of Seventh-day Adventists online.